'cause it's the weekend. My friends and I were jacked up because we're gonna go exploring in the creek that runs in front of Oak Place, the housing projects where we live on the edge of Westchester, about 50 miles outside of Philly. Okay guys, all right, we're gonna meet up, let's meet up. We're gonna meet up in a circle at 11 o'clock, you guys ready? Woo-hoo! I'm so excited. And the next morning, me and my friends, my older brother, there's a bunch of us about 7 to 10 years old. We ride our bikes through the bridge, and then we scramble through a hole in the fence, and then we slide down the bank to the no-name creek that we follow through the woods in a rural part of town for miles and miles and miles. We did this for years, and it felt so free. It was being like, dare I say it, Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And just like those boys, we needed to get away because Oak Place was the worst of housing projects. If you didn't live in Oak Place, you didn't go in Oak Place. And when I was at school, the kids never bothered me and they never bullied me because they knew I was from Oak Place. Because Oak Place was so bad and we were so poor, the creek became our sanctuary. This stream was beautiful. It was so amazing. It was so clear. With these trees, canopy of trees overhanging, chirping birds, the smell of fresh air, and summer green. And we'd have boat races with sticks. And we'd follow the sticks down the stream, and we're jumping on the rocks, and we're splashing in the water, and we're kicking each other with water, and we follow the sticks down the stream. And we had our own fishing poles, we have our own hooks, and we go and catch our own worms. And someone would always go in their parents' kitchen and bring out a can of corn, and we'd use that as bait too, believe it or not. And during long summers, we loved going in the woods by ourselves. We had no judgment, no schedule, no parents. We didn't have to prove anything. We didn't have to be tough. We didn't have to fight. We could just be like normal kids, like the kids we went to school with, and all the white kids we saw playing on television who had a creek and had no care in the world. The creek, it bonded us. It gave us a childhood. One afternoon, we're splashing around in one of these water holes that only comes up to waist high, but to us, that was swimming. And so my brother and I, we're water wrestling, and my friends, they're over playing, they're making a dam, trying to make the pool a little bit higher. And all of a sudden, we hear a screen door open and close. And out of this house comes this hippie guy standing over the bank, watching us, and he looks, and he says, "You guys shouldn't be swimming in that water. It's sewer. It's filled with sewage." And we looked, and we kept swimming. And he says, "Okay, well, if you want to keep swimming in someone else's shit, then go ahead." And he walked away. We stayed in the creek for a little bit more minute, and we looked at the water. And then we looked at each other. And then we climbed out. And walking back through the woods home, none of us said too much, because we knew at that moment that we would never go back to that creek. And we never did. everything was changed at that moment. At first, I was really, really angry at this guy for telling us that we've been swimming in shit. Because we were already living in shit. So at least let us have this. I mean, he really, really crushed it for us. But I think this guy knew we were from Oak Place. And maybe he was thinking, you know what? These impoverished kids, they don't have anything else. This is all they have. But they don't know what they're swimming in because no one's telling them. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Because it didn't take long for us to realize once we got home, you see, in a nicer part of town in Westchester, the creek flowed in. That part was covered up. But when it got to the housing projects, the city didn't want to spend any money to cover up the creek, so they just left it open. That man probably saved us from a lot of health problems if we would have kept swimming in that creek. But without that creek braiding us together as friends, my group of friends, we all started going in different directions. And some of us, not so healthy. On trips back east, I often go home to see my old creek. And the park that runs in Oak Place has now been covered up. But when I go out to the rural park, it's still open. Flashbacks of me swimming and playing and fishing and catching tadpoles all come back in that instant when it was all stripped away. And every now and then, when I'm out hiking and when I approach a creek, I often wonder, is that creek a sewer? Or is someone gonna come out and tell me, hey, you're swimming in shit? So I feel like I'm always on guard. So like a couple weeks ago, in Figueroa Mountain, I went hiking with my 8-year-old daughter, and we came across a creek. We came across the creek, we took our shoes off, and we put our feet in, and we're splashing in the water, and she was a little bit skittish because there were some tadpoles, and there was little guppies, and they're nibbling on her toes, and she was skittish at first. But we sat down and we started playing, and then I told her my story about No Name Creek. But I didn't tell her everything, because I know how childhood innocence can vanish in an instant. And I don't want that to happen to my child or any other child splashing in the joy of a no-name creek.